Hello, everybody, and welcome in to Bleeding Burnt Orange here live. I am your host, Matthew Miller. We are on the 24th edition of Bleeding Burnt Orange Live. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. And like it says, guys, it is Sugar Bowl time. Now, this is going to be a slow burn, guys, because I can't just jump into this, break this game down, because we got, I think, 3.5 weeks before we play football. It's on the 1st. I can't believe I'm even saying that. 3.5 weeks before we play in a college football playoff game versus the Washington Huskies, who we had the pleasure of playing last year in the Alamo Bowl. I think it's going to be a good game. Two different teams, but similar also from last year. And before I get into any sort of discussion, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. It really helps out. Go over to the Big 12 channel, do the same thing. Go over to the SG1 Sports Texas channel, do the same thing. If you haven't subscribed to Mark, I'm sure you have if you're here. Hit that like button, subscribe. It really helps out. Just keep driving that traffic, guys. I'm going for the next 3 weeks. Actually, 2 is probably going to be a lot of filler time, a lot of interaction with you guys, talking about college football in general. And then we're going to dive deep. I may break down the game in a two-part segment. I may do a Wednesday and Thursday show before the 1st of January because this is an important game. It's the most important game Texas has been in a long time. I guess you can say the 2018 Sugar Bowl versus Georgia, but let's be honest here. That had little to do with the program going forward. I think this has a lot to do with the program going forward. It obviously has a lot to do if we win a national championship or compete in a national championship or even win and just playing in a College Four final. That's gigantic for this program. And again, guys, if you're going to go to a game like this, you want to save some money because those tickets are expensive. I looked at national championship tickets. I thought about it. I'm thinking about taking out a loan because I want to be at that game. But if you're going to go, save $100 or save $10 off a $100 purchase. And honestly, you're not going to use that code. So let's jump to the other code. Big 20 for $20 off a purchase of $300 more. If you want to go to a lower tier game, type in code BIG for $10 off a purchase of $100 or more. Go to ticketsmarter.com, guys. Be smarter, not dumber. Go to ticketsmarter.com. Thank you guys for that. This is, like I said, the 24th edition. We hit the 23rd edition last week. Texas rolled Oklahoma State 49-21. Fantastic performance. One of the best performances of the year by the Longhorns. I think we're peaking at the right time. I thought the Oklahoma State game we played well. I thought the Texas Tech game we played well. And I thought the Oklahoma State game we played well. So the last month of the season has gone very well for us. Quinn is now healthier. He's going to be the healthiest he has probably since the first game once we do take the field in Louisiana. I think our team as a whole is going to be healthier than it has been, or since it has taken the field, probably the first game of the season versus Rice. So let's jump into your comments real quick. Congrats on making the playoffs. I appreciate the real. It has been awesome. It's new territory. It's completely new territory. Texas has not been here in my lifetime since the 2009 national championship game. And then if you want to go a little bit, that run by Mac Brown, obviously that whole run in my teens is what I remember. And that's what hopefully we can get back to here at Texas. I think the 12 team playoff will help us with that. I think moving to the SEC will help us with that. Just a fantastic time to be a Longhorn, honestly. It's the best time. And it feels good because the true fans that stuck around through the hard times, through the Charlie Strong era, through the down times of the Tom Herman era, through the 5-7 season with Steve Sarkisian. I think that was my first or second year on here, guys. That was a hard year. I had to come on here after an Arkansas game where we absolutely got bludgeoned to death by a good Arkansas team. No doubt about that. But we got bludgeoned. That was an embarrassment. We got beat by 3+ scores. They ran it down our throat. They ran for over 300 yards. And that was a low point for me as a Texas fan. And ever since then, there's been a slight upward trajectory. Steve Sarkisian has taken us from losing close games to winning close games to blowing teams out that we should. We should have blown that Oklahoma State team out. We did. We still play a little bit too close to some teams, guys. But overall, quite an improvement by Steve Sarkisian and the staff from what we've been used to over the past decade. So I appreciate him for that. And it's going to be interesting, guys. I think this is the most balanced 14 playoff we've ever had. I think we're going to be in a good game with Washington. I think Washington and Texas both are going to play off each other's strengths and weaknesses because their strengths are our weaknesses and our weaknesses are their strengths. So, and I think that's the case for both teams. So it's going to be a very interesting game. I think the Alabama-Michigan game will be very close and very tight most of the game. I think that's both those teams score under 24 points. I think it's the opposite for us. I'd be shocked if both these teams don't get in the 30s. And I think it's going to be a good game. Mike G, thank you for that. I appreciate that a lot. DeReal, I'm shocked that Texas has the third best odds to win it all, being behind both Michigan and Alabama seeds odds since they played one another. Yeah, it is odd. And I actually think we match up better versus the winner of that game if we do beat Washington. I've said this for a month, and I'm going to get chastised by Michigan and Ohio State fans, and that's fine. Our We're the best team in the country when it comes to our front seven on defense. We are. I don't think there's a debate about that. Pro Football Focus has Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy ranked as number 1 and number 2 at defensive tackle. We have him on the same line. I think Barron Sorrell actually has been playing very well the past month. I think that's part of the reason why, as a defense, we've gotten a little bit better the past months. And as a team, Ethan Burke has shown capabilities. That guy's going to be a very good player. Is he right now? No, he's inconsistent. And then another guy, a freshman, Anthony Hill, might be our best player on defense the last month. Anthony Hill has been insane at the linebacker position. I expect him only to get better through this month of practice. I think him and Malik Muhammad growing even more during this time, our young cornerback, will be gigantic going into this game. I think Ryan Watts getting healthy is gigantic. I think that's something no one's talking about. Yes, it would have sucked to miss Xavier Worthy. He is already out of his boot. He's already rehabbing and getting better. He'll play in this game. There's no doubt about that. That guy's a freak, by the way. He's super bendy. He walked off out of the Texas Tech game into the tunnel, came back in, returned a punt for a really big punt. And then the guy gets hurt in this game, has a boot on, and he's already practicing a week later, or already on the field, like warming up and stuff. So very impressed by him. But Ryan Watts is key to our team. I really believe that. Every time he gets hurt and out, and he's off the field, this Texas team really struggles in pass. He is the number 1 cornerback for a reason, and he's going to be huge. In my opinion, I haven't gotten to Washington yet enough, but if you're going to guard Jalen Polk, fantastic wide receiver, Jalen McMillan, fantastic wide receiver. Rome Odunze, fantastic wide receiver. You're going to need Ryan Watts, and in my opinion, you have to put him not on the best guy, but you have to put him on the most physical and probably least athletic guy. I don't know which one of those out of the 3 it is, but he's a big cornerback. He does struggle to run with people. So if you put him on the least athletic, I really believe if he gets physical at the line of scrimmage, he can take one of the guys out. And that's huge because Terrence Brooks is going to have to play better. Malik Muhammad's going to have to grow up quickly. He's been good, but he's going to have to be really good in this game. And then Gavin Holmes is going to have to be consistent. Gavin Holmes at point is in this season where he's clearly the number 2 cornerback. When I watch him, he's clearly the number 2 cornerback. And then other points, he looks completely lost and terrible. He's going to have a good game to go against these guys. And honestly, the safety position worries me more. Obviously, Jalen Catalon hit the transfer portal. I'm not shocked by that. BJ Allen, also safety, young safety. I believe he's a freshman or a sophomore. I'm don't really know. I get lost with those recruiting classes. He was a very high 4-star or even low 5-star recruit, depending on who you look at, has entered the transfer portal. And Xavier Bryce. Now, all these guys in the secondary leaving tells me Steve Sarkisian is already getting guys out of the portal that are going to be in the secondary, and he knows it's a weakness. Andrew Makuba will probably be on Texas Longhorn next year. Very good player from Clemson. If we can get one more and then with a strong recruiting class, I think we'll be fine back there. Another guy that's going to have to grow up is Derek Williams. True freshman safety, plays pretty well. He's our best safety in coverage. I like Michael Taff off the ball. He's very scrappy, good tackler, and he's good at read and diagnosing plays and then coming down low, but he's not good in coverage. And Jaron Thompson is our best at diagnosing plays. He is. He's not good in coverage, but he's good at that. So Derek Williams is going to be heavily relied upon, and it sucks that he's going to miss the first half, but in a very ticky-tack targeting call. Like, I think I'm a pretty realistic Longhorn fan, and that was ticky-tacky. You want to go and watch it. He basically hit a guy with his shoulder, and his helmet slid up into the guy. That's going to happen. That happens almost every play. I don't know why they decided to call targeting on that play. It is what it is. So that's going to be gigantic missing him. Jaron Thompson, Derek Williams, and Michael Taff are going to have to survive this first half. They are the weakness on this team, and Washington's probably going to try to exploit them. I don't know who Washington's tight end is. Again, when I dive deep into them, I'll look at him and see if he scares me, because that would scare me. If he's an average tight end, he can take advantage of those guys in coverage. I think our corners will make enough improvement, and I would see a lot. I expect to see quite a bit of zone in this game. I think it'd absolutely be idiotic and arrogant to put man-to-man coverage on these guys a lot of the time. I want to see 70-30 zone, honestly. And on the offensive side of the ball, I think you're going to have to run the ball very well, and you're going to have to score in the red zone. That's going to be key to this game, guys. You have to be able to do that. It's going to be a fun game. Like I said, this is a macro perspective right now. We're going to get in the micro, look into this very deeply, break it down very deeply. Even what I was doing before, we're going to get deeper in that. We're going to get into where Penix likes to throw, what side of the field, what kind of personnel they like to use, stuff like that, because I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup. Um, Ralph Wolf plus Washington has a dynamic tight end that can stretch the field. Yeah, if that's the case, it's going to be very interesting. Obviously, we have a dynamic tight end as well. Like I said, I got a feeling it's going to be a shootout, guys. And I don't think it's going to be because of bad defenses. I think both these defenses are average, but this is just very good offensive talent. I mean, you have 5 guys that are at the wide receiver, 6 guys at the wide receiver position that are going to play in the NFL. I think A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, and Rome Odunze are all going to be top 40 picks in the NFL draft, which is crazy to say in a game. You're going to have 3 guys in the top 40, and that's going to be interesting. Wet blanket. By the way, you did not show up, my friend. You did not show up. And I called you out after the game because you talked all this smack. And then when Oklahoma State got the doors blown off, you didn't show up. So shame on you. But anyways, thank you for being here tonight, though. Thoughts on the playoff field? I think it's the best playoff field we've had. I think we have even matchups. And I think it's funny. These teams lining up mirror each other almost in a lot of ways in both games. I think Washington and Texas mirror each other in a lot of ways. You have 2 offensive-minded coaches that are probably top 2 or probably top 4 in the country in offensive play calling. You have teams that are sneakily good at running the football with Dylan Johnson and then with Blue Baxter and Keelan Robinson too for Texas. You have 2 underrated offensive lines. I think the only difference between the 2 teams is our defensive line. Our defensive line is the best in college football. I'm done debating that with people. I think that's pretty obvious when you have 2 guys that are going to play in the NFL at your defensive tackles positions that are rated that highly, and then 2 average edges. We're the best front 4 in college football. I think that's where the game's going to be won. If Texas cannot get pressure with their front 4 and they have to bring consistent blitzes, you can bring them once in a while, but if you bring them consistently, Michael Penix is going to shred us. That's what's going to happen. So those guys have to eat. DeReal, I'd rather play Michigan. We match up way better versus Michigan. They do not have wide receivers like Washington, nowhere near. Penix is a better player than J.J. McCarthy, and Michigan wants to run downhill. Have fun running downhill versus Stephondre Sweat and Byron Murphy. That's why if we can survive this game, guys, I truly believe we can win the national championship because we match up very well with both those teams. They want to run downhill. They want to hit you with big plays deep. And Texas, they'll give up 1 or 2 big plays. Their issue is they consistently give up the medium tier plays, and Michael Penix will shred you doing that. Michael Penix will gladly take the 15 to 20-yard completion down the field. So it's going to be very interesting. Like I said, I don't think it's a great matchup for us. Do I think we have more talent than Washington? No doubt. But football is a matchup game. That's why I think Michigan, Alabama is going to be a very good game as well because those teams are just they're the same. No one, if that's a blowout, that would shock me. The only way that's a blowout to me is if McCarthy or Milroe turn the ball over like 2 to 3 times. And I don't see that happening either. Both those teams want to run the ball, hit you with deep shots. That's what's going to happen. So, and we match it better versus those teams. We matched it well versus Alabama. I still think we match it well versus Alabama because of that. So it's going to be very interesting. QBs have to be on for all the teams. In the Michigan and Alabama game, I think you just play a C game and win. I agree in this game. If Quinn Ewers has a C game, we're losing. Like he's going to have to play. I don't think he has to play Oklahoma State well, but he has to play. I'm trying to think of like Baylor well. He played a B game in the Baylor game. If he can throw his B game out there and everyone else shows up with their A game, we can win the game. But we're not winning with anything less than that. Like Quinn's probably going to have to go 25 of 35, somewhere in that neighborhood for 270 plus and 2 touchdowns and no picks. That's like what a B game for him is. An A game would be over 300 with a 70% completion percentage and 3 touchdowns. And I just don't see that. I mean, everyone is counting out Washington, and I'm just done doing that. I've never done that. I thought they would beat Oregon, and they did. They beat them both times when I thought they'd beat them because I think Oregon's the most overrated team in the country. No need to keep pushing that narrative. They're not in the playoffs, so I don't need to talk about that. But Washington, they scare me. They do. I've said this from, again, a month. I called in a Mark show. I said, I would rather play Michigan or Ohio State before the Michigan-Ohio State game happened because we match up better. We do. We match up better versus those teams because they have iffy quarterback play. Michael Penix has the recipe to shred us. He does. He does. I don't know if he will. I don't know what PK is going to come at him with defensively. And hopefully we're going to get help from Gary Patterson on this because I respect his mind as a college football head coach and especially as a defensive mind. So hopefully we pick his brain as well. How is Texas versus mobile quarterbacks like JJ Milroe? How is Texas versus QBs? Okay, so we held Milroe to like 50 yards. The only guy that got us for whatever reason was Dylan Gabriel. He had 113 yards rushing, which that was his career high. And Texas in that game, our linebackers had the worst game all year, other than Anthony Hill. But Jalen Ford and David Benda had terrible. Jalen Ford had his worst college game as a starter ever versus Oklahoma. It was god awful. He's not going to do it again. I mean, that was his worst game. It's not even close. David Benda did not have a good game in that game either. He blew a coverage, a couple coverages. And Anthony Hill, our freshman, was by far the best linebacker we had, and he wasn't even honestly that good. So we did really well versus Milroe. We've done very well otherwise with every other quarterback. It was the Dylan Gabriel game. And I said after that game, I'm kind of glad it happened now so it doesn't beat us in the future because we've gotten better at containing it. The edges have been better at being stingy in their pass rushing lane. So they're not running past the quarterback and then having to retreat when he takes off running. They're keeping the guy in the pocket. So that's going to be very interesting. McCarthy can run. McCarthy does not really want to run when I watch him. Milroe's the opposite. Milroe wants to run. Milroe wants one look, run. That's what he wants to do. That's his instincts. We did a good job versus him the first time, but he's definitely gotten better. So it'd be interesting. I think that would be the key. But you're not lining up and just running the football. So if you were to run Milroe 20 times, you can do that. There's a possibility he gets hurt, and then you're going to have to turn to who at that point? Ty Simpson. Ty Simpson's not beating us. Same with Michigan. Are they going to run J.J. McCarthy 15, 20 times and possibly get him hurt? I don't see that happening. That's why I think, again, we match up well. Because if you're forced to run your quarterback, there's obvious injury risk, and I think that's pretty – going into the game, I think we'll have a good plan dialed up if we do end up winning this game and playing those teams. But you're not just being able to run downhill. No team has. We just played one of the best running backs in America and held him to like 2.4 yards per carry. So I'm not really worried about any rushing game, honestly. Should FSU be instead of Bama? Good question. So there's two trains of thoughts. And this is my issue with the whole thing. There's no logical consistency. If you guys have noticed when I call into Mark's show, when I'm on here, I try to be as logical as possible. It does not make sense to me if you're going to put in, if you're going to put Alabama in, you have to drop Florida State lower than that, 5. You do. Because if you're saying, oh, we don't think they win the national championship, we think Alabama and Texas are better teams, which I agree with, that's fine. But you have to drop them below Georgia because they would lose to Georgia. They're going to lose to Georgia unless everyone opts out for Georgia. You have to drop them below Oregon, even though I think Oregon is overrated. You have to drop them below Ohio State. I think, honestly, if you put them at like 9, that's where they should have been ranked if you're going to be logically consistent. But I've also heard dumb arguments. Listen, I like Jeffrey. Jeffrey's awesome. Jeffrey's a great caller. But his argument of getting Florida State in never made sense to me over Texas because then the results on the field legitimately do not matter. Texas and Alabama are basically similar in strength of schedule and strength of record, and we beat Alabama. We should have been in. There should have been no debate between Alabama and Texas. That debate ended the second week of the season when we beat them, and we continued to have the same record as them. That made no sense to me. Florida State was the obvious team to get left out because of Jordan Travis got hurt. Now, if he didn't get hurt and they didn't put him in, I would have a gigantic issue with that. That'd be basically saying we don't give a shit. If you go undefeated at all, if you're healthy, the SEC is always going to get in, which I totally disagree with because I do think the SEC is still the best conference, but I think that the SEC has come down and the Pac-12, especially in the Big Ten, have also come up a little bit. So I think it's the closest the gap has ever been. So that's why I have an issue with putting Alabama in over Florida State. In the end, does it give you the best playoff matchups? Absolutely. I think it's the best field this system has ever had. Other than maybe the first year, Florida State versus Oregon and Ohio State versus Alabama was pretty good. Like going into it, obviously we knew Florida State ended up getting blown out. But going into it, this is either the first or second best field, and I think you're going to get 2 very good games. So that's the reason why. Alabama dragged Texas in. Okay, fine. You can say that, but we beat them. So that's really a stupid thing to say. That'd be like if Ohio State beat Michigan and then continued to play well and vice versa, and they dragged each other in. That's a dumb thing to say because we beat them. If we lost to them and then won out and we killed everyone, fine. It would be like, damn, Texas is really good. They only lost to one of the 3 best teams in the country. Didn't Penix already light up a Quinn team? First off, he lit up our defense, and I don't think he lit us up. I'm going to be honest, I barely watched that game last year. I watched a little bit of it, but I'm just like everyone else. I really don't care about bowl games. I'm going to be straight up honest about that. That's why I'm really glad this Texas team got into the college football playoff. I did watch most of it, I will say. Xavier Worthy played one of his worst games ever. He dropped like 4 passes in that game, and we ended up figuring out that he had a broken left hand. So that made sense why he was dropping so many passes. Yeah, Bijan Robinson opted out. That was the first Jonathan Brooks show, and I think he even got nicked up in that game. Penix played pretty good in that game that I remember, but I don't think he lit us up. They won 27-20. Quinn actually had his best game up until that point. I believe Quinn had like over 320 yards passing. So he actually had a good game. And there was like, again, Xavier Worthy dropped a touchdown that would have been a 40 to 50 yarder and dropped a couple other balls. So he would have had a lot. Mike Fort. Yeah, that's more like it because if they beat us, I mean, yeah, I don't understand Bama dragged us in. That never made sense to me since we beat them, but let the narrative go. I don't care. We're in. Is Worthy going to play and be healthy for PO? I don't know what PO is. Yes, he is going to be healthy. He's already out of his boot. He's already on the field doing work. So he will be ready. Will he be 100% healthy? I honestly don't think he's been 100% healthy in like 2 months. So with a month off, I think he will be, but it's going to be the closest he's been healthy the whole year. Because he wasn't healthy coming into the guys. He was not healthy coming into the Oklahoma State game, and you saw what he did. He wasn't healthy. He was like 85, 90%. He had an ankle sprain from the week before versus Texas Tech, and I think he re-aggravated it and made it worse. Playoffs, yes, he will be ready, Mike Fort. So I think he'll be fine. That guy's weird. Like, he always limps, but he's always ends up fine. And the reason why us Texas fans know he was definitely hurt in that championship game as well, he didn't outrun Oklahoma State safety there. Like, and Xavier Worthy, I think, was tracked at running 22 miles per hour when he returned to punt versus Iowa State. This guy is a blazer. It's either him or Jaden Blue are our two fastest players. He's not getting dragged down from behind like that if he's 100% healthy. Do I think he'll be about 90% healthy for sure? Yes. Do I think 100? Probably not, because he never is. Did you see Texas fans chanting SEC? Yes, I did. We all knew that was coming. I said that on Mark's channel when we played Oklahoma. If both of us made it, we're gonna chant it. Well, I'm just letting you know right now, Daryl, we'll never chant that again. That's already been discussed. But at least Texas YouTube is in agreement. We chanted at the Big 12 championship game, and we never chanted again. That was the agreement that I've seen online, because it was a joke at the Big 12. I thought it was hilarious at first how much we booed Brett Yomark, but then when Steve Sarkisian and the rest of the players were like, calm down, we don't want that anymore, let him talk. I think that's when we should have been quiet. We weren't. We kept booing. We legitimately booed him as loud as possible. He couldn't talk for 2 minutes, so it made him very uncomfortable. You could tell, and I thought it was funny at first, but later on, I thought they should have let him speak. Uh, it looks like Ewers telegraphs his passes. Do you think so? Yes, he can. And that is part of the problem. This team very much on offense, guys, is a rhythm team. It's a rhythm team, just like a basketball team. They're a lot like the Golden State Warriors. When those guys get in rhythm and are making shots, they're basically impossible to stop. Texas is the same way. If Texas is in rhythm and Quinnen is just quickly getting the ball, reading the defense, getting out to his playmakers, you're not going to stop us. You're just not. Now, if you can keep Quinn in the pocket, he can get a little anxious for no reason. There are some times he steps into sacks because of his anxiousness. There are times he holds onto the ball too long. There are times he can telegraph his passes. When he's not doing that, he's one of the best quarterbacks in America. It's going to be up to Steve Sarkisian doing what he did in the Oklahoma State game, which is very misdirection type plays, get the defense going one way, throw back the other very quickly. If you can do that with Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, Jatavian Sanders, it's really, really hard to stop. It's basically basketball on turf. And again, this is definitely a rhythm type game. So a rhythm type offense. So if Washington can interrupt our rhythm or break it at some point, that's when I worry. We'll see if they can do that. That's very easy to say to do. It's very hard to do versus this Texas team. John, Darrell, you probably enjoy that. Yeah, Darrell was probably like, ooh, rubbing his hands like an evil villain. I'm happy Texas fans are enjoying their new conference. Hey, we're going to add to that baseball because we're good at baseball. We're going to add to the basketball. There's might be a debate now with Texas and Oklahoma joining second best basketball conference. And then football, it just makes you stronger. So it's going to be very interesting. I want Bama over UT. All the talk about Bama's defense, but UT might have the best form. Thank you. Mike, I have been saying this for a while. I wanted you guys, honestly, in the first round. I have Michigan fans. I kept telling them, We have the best front four in the country. We might have the best front seven in the country. Front four, I don't think is debatable. Front seven, you can debate. But you have Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy. That's going to disrupt a team like Michigan. It's going to disrupt a team like Alabama. No, you're not going to run on us. No one has. It's just not going to happen with your running back. Quarterback, maybe. If you want to if you want to dedicate 15 to 20 plays to rushing your quarterback, that's fine. There's a really big possibility he gets injured versus our team, but you probably could get away with some yardage there, but you're not going to be able to run with your running backs. We've proven this over and over. We're top 5 in the country in rush yards per game. We're top 5 in rush yards per carry. We're top 6 in rushing efficiency, which basically means we're holding you under your average of rushing. We're the best run defense in the country when you boil all the statistics together, and you're not going to be able to run versus us. You're just not. So I agree with that, Mike Fort. Like I said, I like the matchup better of Michigan or Alabama. I don't like this matchup with Washington. Oh, Ralph, this has officially started the two giants battling it out, SEC versus Big Ten. Maybe that's why FSU was out. Possibly, I think FSU ends up joining one of the two at some point. I think Clemson ends up joining one of the two at some point. There's going to be a point in time when the SEC and Big Ten have every team in the college football playoff, other than probably one, which is going to be the group of 5. That's the allotted slot they have, but that's about it. I'm pretty sure Texas fans will chant SEC. I just don't see that happening, DeReal. Again, I like the disconnect between actual like fans that go to games and then YouTube and Twitter could be really big. But everyone that I've seen saying chant it in the Big 12, don't chant it in the SEC, because I don't like that conference BS. I could care less what conference we're in. I like the new matchups it's going to present. I like that we're going to play Georgia next year, but I don't care about the SEC. I really don't. Let's see. Paxton, I'm not being negative, Nancy, but I think the run comes to an end. I hope I'm wrong. Hey, that could happen, but it's still a hell of a season. That's the thing too, guys. I'm not gonna be too angry at it because I had us at 10-2 winning the Big 12. We're 12-1. We've won the Big 12, or 11-2, I guess, if we won the Big 12 championship. And we're 12-1. We won the Big 12 and we're in the college football playoff. I have no issue if it comes to an end. I don't hate Washington. Like, that's the thing too. Like, this game's gonna be fun, but I'm not gonna be like, I'll be sad that the season's over, and I'll be sad that I'm not gonna get to watch this team anymore. But I'm not gonna be pissed off if we lose to Washington, because it's a bad matchup. I'm gonna keep saying it. It is. Let's see if when I dig in deeper, if I come off of that. But right now, just again, the macro level, it's a bad matchup. It is. I think Matt's getting introduced to the nuances that is, or the nuisance that is DeReal. No, I know DeReal's MO, and I don't find him a nuisance. I just think it's funny. He's big SEC. And okay, I'm gonna say this. This is no hate, DeReal. Let's be honest here. If you're Alabama, are you more tied to the SEC than you are if you're a Kentucky fan? No, you're not. Because no offense, Kentucky really doesn't have much to root for in anything other than basketball. So you kind of have to be tied to the SEC when it comes to football and root for the conference. No offense. I hope you don't take that with the fence, but that's what I think. That's the case. I think that's the case. Could be wrong. Missouri and Texas A&M fans said the same thing. You'll enjoy it around here. We do lots of winning. But see, that's what I'm saying. Like, we don't do anything. My allegiance is to the University of Texas. I could give two shits about Alabama, Georgia, especially A&M. I don't care. I honestly, like, I might root for like the lower level teams like a South Carolina, those type of teams. But I don't care about the SEC. I don't. I just don't. I have 38-35 either way. I think that's probably where I'm going to lean early. Again, when I dive deeper, we'll see if I come off of something like that. 38-35, 34-31, something like that. Yeah, I would agree. I'd agree that UW is probably the short straw for Texas based off on their offense. 100%. That's what it comes down to, matchups. I think we match up better versus the other teams. I think we're slightly less talented than Alabama. We still match up well with them. And I think we're slightly more talented than Michigan, but we obviously we match up well versus them. So Washington is definitely less talented. Like, if you went across the board and you had NFL scouts choose who they want on the teams, we're going to have more draft picks. But it doesn't matter when it comes to this style of play, guys. That's why like high scoring teams can upset lower level teams, because they have the ability to space them out and dish it around the yard. We'll see what happens. Like I said, it's going to be very interesting. UK beat U of L, which helped FSU get left out. I think UK did their part. Hey, Yeah, I guess. I still think FSU gets left out even if they beat Louisville, if Louisville beat Kentucky. I don't think that really had much of it. You were saying the SEC spirit will grow on you. You are young, the SEC spirit. Maybe. I just I have never had that allegiance to my conference. I've never been like, "Ooh, the Big 12." Um I'm a Texas fan, and I think that's what's gonna surprise some people. Texas brand is so big that we're one of like 4 teams, guys, that we don't need the conferences. Like, we could go independent, we'll make the money, it wouldn't matter. Notre Dame's one of them, obviously, have they done. I think Ohio State's one of them. I think that's honestly really it. I think those are the only 3 teams that could go independent, be fine, like, or and make a lot of money. I don't think be fine. I think there's multiple teams that would be fine, but I think Texas would make a shit ton of money by itself. They got their own network at one point. Um, so yeah, I that's why I don't really have an allegiance to a conference. I just don't see the need for a conference, honestly. So it is what it is. And by the way, we're going to come in and dominate. So will Oklahoma in a lot of the sports. Like, Oklahoma's going to roll through softball. I think every other Olympic sport, like swimming, we're going to dominate in. We'll dominate in volleyball. We're already doing that in the Big 12. Basketball, I think will be one of the 2 or 3 best teams. We play Marquette tonight. That's part of the reason I started this early. I really want to watch Texas versus Marquette. I think it's going to be a hell of a game. So it's going to be very interesting. Boy, Michigan could go independent. Maybe that'd be the other team. And of course, can you go independent? Yes, I'm saying thrive like Notre Dame has. I think there's only 3. I think there's Notre Dame, Texas, and Ohio State. Texas has a top 3 fight song. The Victors, the Echoes, Texas Fight. Okay, yeah, I don't disagree with that. 24 from what I've heard is official. Heard it's official. Brock Vandergrift to Kentucky. He's good, man. Y'all make him a 12-team playoff next year with him. Hey, if that's true, that's really cool. Sandra, god dang, man. You always put some crazy ass scores out here. 59-17. If we hold Washington to 17, I will be all aboard the national championship train. I will say I will get on here after that game if we hold them to. I don't care if we score 59. If we score 31-17, if we hold that team to 17 points, I think we easily can win the national championship. I still think we can, but 17 to that team, which is probably the best offense in the country, is pretty insane. Michigan on different level than Texas. Do your research. Dude, we make more money than you, so no, you're not. Like, that's the thing. If you want to talk program wise, fine, give it to you. Don't care. And I think recently you've definitely win that debate. But if you're talking money and endowments, no, you're not. I don't think you endowments maybe. Money overall, I know we make either the first or second most off jersey sales, memorabilia, stuff like that. And then I think Tony talked about this when he's on here. The guy that he works for, obviously the USC channel, you guys know. Texas is like a thing in the state law. Basically, they have to be given money by the state to Texas and Texas A&M, oil money. So no, we have a shit ton of money. Damn, this has turned into a Stanford, Cal, and Michigan make the most money. Are you saying bring in? So that's the thing too. There's like the net amount of money you bring in and the gross amount. I think Texas has more net. I think, could be wrong. Ohio State might have been a better offense than Washington this year. They had the best receiver. Yeah, they had the best receiver in football, John, but I think Roma Dunze's top 3. I think Jalen McMillan and Jalen Polk are also in the top 15, 20. So, I mean, you have 3, let's say 3 top 30 wide receivers in the sport. They have the best wide receiving core in the country, I think. I think if Emeka Buka was healthy and played to his potential, I'd go with Ohio State. But if we're going 1, 2, 3, I think Washington has the best in the country. Sark is getting our playmakers going in the screen game. That was the best game he's called offensively that I can remember, maybe even since his Alabama days. Guys, I went and watched because someone posted on Twitter the forgotten national championship game of Ohio State and Alabama. That was his best game ever called. That was insane what he did in that game. I would expect a similar script. There were some plays for Devontae Smith that I really liked. Basically sent him in motion halfway, and then as soon as he called the play, he reversed motion to the outside, and there was no one on the left side of the field because it was man, and Devontae Smith is fast, so you're just booking it to the other side. If you can, he should draw up plays like that for Xavier Worthy. I expect him to. This man with a month to prepare, it's going to be fun. It really is. But Kalen DeBoer can do the same thing. Kalen DeBoer is a very good offensive coach. Kalen DeBoer is a very good coach in general. It's going to be a very good game. True. Penix is way better than midcord. Penix is probably a top 3 quarterback in the sport. Him, Caleb Williams, and Jaden Daniels. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. McCord transferring to Nebraska. Listen, I don't think McCord's great, but he's better than anything Nebraska's had recently. So that's a very good pickup by them. DeBoer's record is nuts. Yeah, I think he's 102 and 11 or something like. Yeah, he's a very good football coach. Kentucky has always had good big uglies. Man, we're still on this. Let's see. UT and UW probably top 5 wide receiver rooms in college football with the obvious Ohio State. Yeah, I would agree with that. I like our top 2 versus anyone. I think Xavier Worthy, obviously baller. I think AD Mitchell slept on. AD Mitchell shows up in big games. Go look what he did at Georgia in the college football playoff. Go look what he did the rest of the time in big games and in big moments for Texas this year. He's been very good. And then you have Jordan Whittington, the slot guy that doesn't get enough credit. He can go off at any point. He had a good game versus Oklahoma State. And then you have the second best tight end in college football. If you're including tight end in that room, Mike, I think we're probably second because no offense to Cade Stover, he's not Jatavian Sanders. Jatavian Sanders will be a second round pick in the NFL draft. He's very good. You have Brock Bowers by himself, and then I think there's 2 categories. I think there's Brock Bowers by himself. I think there's Jatavian Sanders by himself, and then I think there's a bunch of other good guys. Texas has the best wide receiver tight end QB combo. I don't know enough about Washington's tight end. If Ohio State had a better quarterback, I'd give it to them. Yeah, we probably do. Maybe. I don't know LSU's tight end. Jaden Daniels, Brian Thomas, and Malik Neighbors. And then if they have an average tight end, I honestly might go there. But yeah, that's pretty nice. 2022 richest colleges: Harvard, 49 billion; Texas, 42 billion; number 9, Michigan. So, thank you for doing the research for me. Sorry guys, talking to 24 in the chat and QB big news carry. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting, guys. I think it's going to be a hell of a game. Can you guys do me a favor while you're all here? Hit that like button, subscribe down below. We're going to be here next Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. I'm going to look. Tice, the athletic budget doesn't matter, but I'm going to look into this game a little bit each week. Next week, I'll bring a little bit of on the surface data. We'll dive in deeper the next week after that. And then that third week, guys, is going to be all in what I think is going to happen, how I think is going to happen, and we'll discuss that then. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe. This is Bleeding Burnt Orange, live number 24. Go over to each channel, hit the like button, subscribe down below, and we'll keep this going for a little bit longer, and then I'm going to have to bounce. And then here we go. You're already on Amazon. Admit it. Might as well click the link and support the channel. Mark Rogers can get some money. What's wrong with that? 100% agree. Hit that link if you're going to go on Amazon, which we all do, and do that as well. Look up the athletic budget for Michigan. You know what? Next show, I will bring that information. This was a spurt of the moment. If you guys want to look that and drop that in the chat, go ahead. I can't do that right now, obviously. Did Quinn even throw a deep ball against Oklahoma State? I swore he threw one. Yeah, he threw one to AD Mitchell down the left sideline. It was a beautiful. They showed it on the above camera, on the all of 22 camera. Like Quinn Ewers is the best quarterback in college football when it comes to anticipation. There's no doubt about that. He anticipates his throws beautifully. If you go look at that play, AD Mitchell hadn't even broken out. He did a double move. He did an out and up, and he was just on the out, and then he threw that ball right when he hit the out, and then he's running up underneath of it. It was like poetry in motion. He's so good at doing that. That's his biggest strength, is anticipation. Now, that can lead to some things, guys. If your guy falls down there, runs the wrong route, that can lead to the defender picking it off. But it's also a big thing going in the NFL that I think will help him a lot. I was born into it. The orange everything. B Bean, 100% like it way more. It's hilarious how everyone's changed their tune on this. If you go look at Joel Klatt a couple years ago, he said the 14 was the worst thing for the sport. Now he's saying, and he doesn't want to expand it even more. Now he's begging for the 12-team playoff. Everyone is. You know why? Because once you get to that point of the 13, 14 team being left out, those teams can't win the national championship anyways. We had a legitimate case this year, guys. I think there was these 4 teams, if you want to add in healthy FSU, Georgia, Ohio State, and if you even want to throw in Oregon, fine. I think they're overrated, but if you want to make a case for them, go ahead. There's 7 legitimate teams that could win the national championship, in my opinion. So I think that Texas is obviously one of those teams. And again, if you wanted to add Oregon, there could be 8. So would I rather have too many competitors at one point? Yes, I would. Because if there's that off chance that the 9th team in the country could have won the national championship that year, that doesn't sit well with me at night. That a sport, all sports are about competition and finding out who's the best. So wouldn't you want that to have more teams in there to see who is the best? That's how I feel. Like, you're legitimately leaving out a team this year that probably could have won a national championship. I think Georgia could win the national championship. I think Florida State healthy could win the national championship. I think Ohio State could have won the national championship. So you're going to leave teams out because they had one loss. It's the dumbest shit I've seen. This is why college football has been broken for a long time. We can still love it and say it's broken. And we're finally starting to do some things about it. I hope we can change a little bit more, but the 12 team is right. It is right for this. On next week's show, I have the Alabama panel. That's going to be fun. I actually have never listened to those guys, so I honestly don't know what they look like. Matt versus John, UT Michigan Final Showdown. Hey, I would love to chat that up with John. Hopefully for both of our teams, that does happen. I think it'd be a really good game. I think it'd be a fun game. Might be the best uniform matchup for a championship game in a very long time. Maybe Alabama, Notre Dame, but yeah, that'd be funny. Another reason why I've always thought 8 is enough. Yeah, I agree. I think 8 is like the perfect, but I'd rather have too many than too few. And right now we have too few. It never made sense. You have 5, you have 5 teams, 5 conferences, and you have 4 spots. That never made sense to me. March Madness type tournament would determine a true champion, but not. And yeah, that's too many. Like, let's be honest here. The 15, until that happens, I don't see the point of doing that, like expanding it. I think like the most we should ever have is 12. That's the most. I think 8 would have been perfect, but 12 is fine too. I don't love college kids playing 15 plus games. Dude, okay, so a college kid who's a senior playing 15 games, woo, that's a big deal. But then when he graduates and goes to the NFL and plays 20 games a year, that's no big deal. You think that 1 year he can take 5 more games? Like, come on, man. They'll be fine. There's not that big of a deal. There really isn't. And if anything, shorten the regular season to 10 games and then get rid of conference championships and add on play and then have the playoffs. There you go. They won't do that, but you could do that. Which SEC stadiums do you look forward to visiting? Well, I plan on going to Nashville next year. I think that's going to be the easiest ticket to get for Vandy. So, I mean, I'm not excited because it's Vanderbilt, but I'm excited to watch Texas. I think Georgia, I've heard, is fantastic. I would love to go there. LSU, I had the chance to go before COVID hit. I have a friend that goes to LSU. Of course, COVID had to hit, so I'm going to go there at some point. I'm very excited for there. The Swamp. I think an underrated place is Mississippi State. I think that will be fun. We play them next year, but at home. Alabama doesn't excite me. Like, I think it's kind of a corporate crowd now. I would say LSU, Florida, Mississippi State would probably be my top, and then Georgia, top 4. Those are my top 4 I'd like to visit. I wish I had a boat. If I had a boat, I would go to Neyland. Yeah, that sounds fun too. Tennessee does sound fun. That'd be awesome if we were playing Tennessee next year and Vanderbilt and like back-to-back weeks. Then I could just stay in Tennessee for a week and go to both games. But we're not. I forget our road games on the SEC. I think we do play for Florida on the road. That's too expensive for me right now. Vanderbilt, well, that's part of the reason I'm going. It's the closest because I live in Ohio and it's the cheapest ticket. Like, that ticket's not going to be expensive. You'll learn to hate the cowbells. Probably. I'd probably have a headache by the end of the game, but it's going to be fun. Ralph Wolf, yes, that was going to be a night game at LSU. I probably would have been beaten up in the parking lot, but I would have been with my friend in an LSU jersey, so maybe that would have saved me. But I was prepared to go. I'd already lined everything up, and then COVID got that canceled, so that's awesome. Not SEC, but Michigan for me. Yeah, Michigan would be fun. Again, I'm in Ohio. Those tickets are very expensive, though. I do have a friend that's a Michigan fan. Maybe I'll consider going to that game, but I'm definitely going to go to the Vanderbilt game. I think that's going to be a good time. It'll be the first time I've watched Texas in person, by the way. I was going to go to the Red River game last year. Too expensive. Decided not to go. every time I try to do something, it's either one, too expensive, or two, COVID fucking pandemic hits because I wanted to go see. I was going, like, it was already planned, and that's what pisses me off for the LSU game, but it would have been really fun. Probably dangerous, like you said, Ralph Wolf, LSU at night, but would have been fun. Thank you guys for being here again. I am going to cut this one now. You guys have also been awesome per usual. Came on a little bit early. 7:30 p.m. Eastern time next Wednesday. Be here, be square. Thank you guys. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We'll go in a little bit dive into a little bit of the Texas versus Washington game. We got to slow burn this, guys, because we got a while, and we'll just keep getting deeper from there. So, guys, I really appreciate it. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and Mike Fort, peace and hook 'em. Peace to you guys as well. Hook 'em.